What's up YouTube? Austin coming at you with Vaporleaf.com. Today we're going to be talking about the Kangertech Subvod. This is a great entry-level sub-ohm device, so let's go ahead and jump down in and take a look at it. Here we are down in close with the Kangertech Subvod. Now this is going to be the kit. To my knowledge they don't sell them just as the device only. Don't get a ton with the kit, so it makes sense why they wouldn't do that. So let's go ahead and open it up here. Just slides right out like that. You do get some paperwork with it. And then you will also get your micro USB charge cable, a replacement glass for the tank. You get a 1300 milliamp hour battery. Now this is going to be a stick battery. It's going to be 5 clicks on, 5 clicks off, just like most stick batteries out there. And it will charge through the micro USB on the bottom. You might notice those two little holes right there. Those are going to be LEDs. So when you plug it in and it's charging, one of those is going to light up red when it's fully charged. The other one is going to light up green. This is not a variable voltage battery, so you can't change any voltage on it. It's just going to be firing at 3.8 volts all day, every day. Nothing you can do to change that. And it does not have a spring-loaded contact to it, so you do want to be careful on how tightly you screw the tank down. You just want to go to that very first point of resistance. There will be a little bit of a gap there. Don't want to over-tighten them because that can cause damage to the batteries. Now talking about the tank here, this is going to be a a top tank nano. Now this will be able to use all the same coils that all the other Kanger sub tanks use. So if you pick up some of the square coils, those will fit in here no problem. Get that out of the way real quick. It does come with a half ohm coil, and this is going to be one of the SSOCC coils, so it is using a stainless steel material instead of Kanthal. You do get a little bit of adjustable airflow here. Now that being said, I have found with all Kanger tanks that even though you can adjust the airflow, it's usually the best to keep it wide open. You do run into a few more leaking issues if you start reducing that airflow down. Starts creating more negative pressure in the tank, that sucks out more juice, and the battery's just not able to keep up with it. And then what makes this a top tank is that you are actually able to fill it from the top. It does have a removable mouthpiece right here, and then just to show you, get some focus in on there, you just unscrew it right from there, and you are able to fill it. Nice open slot there. Don't get it down that center tube, just get it through one of these two slots, and don't fill that side, then that side, then that side, then that side. Use one side to fill, one side to vent. That'll just make your life a whole lot easier. And it does have some nice O-rings up top here to seal that in nicely. Now, word of caution, do not unscrew it from there, because that will actually disassemble the tank. You'll go ahead and pull that out, and then the whole glass comes out, and you can see that it does have the O-rings right there. Screwing that back down. Now I will just jump back to the battery real quickly just to show you here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll flash at you there. And then just to make sure that it is on, you hit the fire button and it does light up, so that is firing. Another 5 quick presses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Flashes again. Press the button and it does lock itself up. It's not lighting up at all. So, alright, not much to talk about with this guy, honestly. It is just a nice, straightforward sub-ohming device. So, you have the battery, which does charge from the bottom. It is a 1300 milliamp hour battery, like I was saying. So, 5 clicks on, 5 clicks off. You do not want to over-tighten the battery. Just go to the very first point of resistance. If you have troubles finding the first point of resistance, what I recommend doing is have the battery sitting in your fingers to where it can spin freely. And then you can hold it tight to get the first thread on there. But then just have it sitting in your fingers and go ahead and start screwing that tank on until it starts spinning that battery with it. Once it starts spinning that battery with it, that is as tight as it needs to go. Now if you don't like how loose that is, you can go ahead and give it about a quarter turn more, and that helps lock it in a little bit better. Doesn't really so that way it doesn't wiggle as much and it won't work its way out as much. But just go ahead and hit that first point of resistance, and that's kind of something that I do a lot with these types of devices. Is as soon as I pick it up to vape it, I just take I hold it like this, take my fingers real quick, unscrew it, screw it into that first point of resistance, drop down to the button, and start vaping on it. The tank has the bottom cap. Now the only time you're going to really open this bottom cap is to change that coil out, and these are just like all the other sub-tank coils, so you do need to prime the coils. And I'll go, since this is kind of an entry-level device, I will walk over that real quick, even though I have covered that in other videos. How I personally like to do this is I take a paper towel or a Kleenex, and in fact, give me just a second here, I'll go grab one, and we will do that real quick. Alright, and I'm back with the paper towel here. So what we're going to do, and I'll go ahead and get this in focus real quick, so we do have those nice air slots right there, and we are going to go ahead and block those off with a paper towel. First thing I'm going to do is grab the juice, so we're going to be using Gallagher at 6. This is going to be a triple melon of honeydew, watermelon, and cantaloupe. So first thing that I like to make sure to do is crack this open, make sure that everything's ready. So once I'm holding the coil and everything, I don't need to do all of this. So make sure that that's open. I usually make sure the top's open on it as well. And we'll go ahead and get that out of the way just a little bit. So we'll take the coil here. I'm going to go ahead and take the paper towel and just wrap it around that base. Oh, let me get that straightened out a little bit more. And it doesn't need to be pretty, just needs to work. I traditionally do this with a tissue. It's a little bit more malleable than a piece of paper towel, but this is what I have handy, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and use. So we do have that, and let's try to get that in focus there real quick. So we do have the, come on, focus for me, baby. There we are. We have the airflow blocked off, and then I have the 2 juice inlets on either side still visible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my juice. We're going to go ahead and fill it up until there's a little bit of a bubble at the top. Just like that. Not sure how well you can see that on the camera. And I'm going to go ahead and let it soak back down to the top of the coil. Once it's soaked back down to the top of the coil, once again I'm not sure how well you can see that in there, I'm going to go ahead and start pressing my finger on the top. And that's going to help push juice through those inlets. And I usually hold this straight up and down. I'm just kind of holding it to the side so you can kind of see what I'm doing there. And eventually you will see it's all nice and shiny in there. And I can even press my finger on it. Once again, I'm not sure how well we'll be able to see that, but there's a little bit of juice on my finger there. Other side, some juice on my finger there. At that point, the coil is fully primed, but it is flooded. So what I do is I loosely cover it with a paper towel like that, and I'm going to go ahead and blow it out. I am going to do this off camera. And that just blows the excess juice out there. At this point, you can throw it into the base. Then we'll go ahead and screw that down into the tank there. And at that point, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and unscrew that top and fill it right from the top here. And like I was saying, use one side to fill, one side to vent the air that's coming out of it that's being replaced with liquid. And we'll go ahead and do that. Now, quick little pro tip, if you are going to be using a glass dropper like this, it can kind of tend to drip from the bottle to there. So give it a quick little push, and then it'll pull a little bit of air in there, and that gives you a nice little bit of time so you can just go ahead and fill her up there. So let me go ahead and get this filled. And I usually fill it right to the bottom of the O-ring at the top here. You do want a little bit of air in there. That just helps with pressure regulations and everything like that. I'm going to get her filled up here real quick. I know this isn't the most entertaining thing to watch somebody do, but it's a fairly small tank, so shouldn't take too remarkably long. In fact, we are full. And we'll just take the top cap, screw that back down on there, and we are filled with juice. If you do see any air bubbles on the juice inlet holes here, once again, let me try and get that. Yeah, if you see any air bubbles on those two juice inlet holes there, just go ahead and shake the tank a little bit, maybe flick it a little bit until those air bubbles leave those holes, because those can act, for lack of a better word, like a force field, and juice will not be able to get in there. Then we will screw the tank on there to the very first point of resistance. We'll turn it on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Sometimes it won't register all the clicks, so if it doesn't work the first 5 times, go ahead and give it another 5 quick clicks. Sometimes people have issues with that, so to some people I just say, just click that button as fast as you can until you start seeing the light blink at you. So let's go ahead and jump back up and we'll finish this up, and I'll vape on this guy for a little bit. Alright guys, so that was the Subvod from Kangertech. Like I said, it's just a really nice entry-level device because it has no adjustability to it, so you don't need to worry about that. The tank's still going to produce very well for you, so if you have an EVOD or an Ego or something like that that's going to produce a little bit more like a cigarette, has a little bit more of that mouth-to-lung draw for you, this is definitely going to help you get into that. You're going to get the better vapor production out of it, it's going to be a much more satisfying, fulfilling vape, but there's not a ton of different wattages to think about, airflows to think about. Like I said, you do have adjustable airflow on it. I just recommend leaving it wide open and kind of practicing that straight to the lung inhale. So with these, you don't want to be scared with it. You do just want to do a nice strong inhale with it. They're working essentially like a very simplistic radiator. So if you do a very light drag on it, that coil is going to get a lot hotter, and it's actually going to feel a lot more harsh in your throat and lungs. If you actually give it a decent amount of airflow and hear that airflow whistling, it's going to work pretty decently for you, and it's going to be a lot easier on your throat and lungs. The other thing to mention is that people who are getting this device are most likely stepping into it from one of the smaller devices, like an EVOD, like an Ego, something like that, where you're most likely at 12, 18, or 24 nicotine. The nicotine in juice is per milliliter, so if you're at 18, that is 18 milligrams per milliliter. And there is always, if you're working off of percentages instead of milligrams, it's a nice and easy equation. 24 milligrams, 2.4%. You're just putting the dot in between the 2 and the 4. 18, 1.8%. 12, 1.2. 6, 0.6. 3, 0.3. And 0, obviously nothing. So since you are getting a lot more vapor production out of that, the nicotine becomes a lot more effective. So if you are at a 24, you're probably going to want to step it down to a 12. If you're at an 18, you're going to want to step it down to a 6 or a 3. If you're at a 12, you're definitely going to want to step it down to a 3. Now with 12, for some reason, I have seen people step down to 6 pretty alright sometimes, but I always say start low and work your way up. If it doesn't get enough nicotine in there, you're just going to be using it a lot. If you have too much nicotine in there, it's going to hurt and you're not going to use it at all. So start on the lower end of the scale. You can always get more juice with a higher nicotine if that doesn't work out for you. So let me go ahead and take a drag off of this just so you can see. I have not taken a hit off of this, and it does take devices a couple hits to really get into their own. So I'm going to take a few hits off of this just so you can see what's going on, how much vapor production I'm getting out of it. So just going to go ahead and hit the button. As I'm hitting the button, I'm going to start drawing on it. I'm going to do that nice strong drag, and then I'm going to exhale. Decent amount of vapor production right off the first hit. Let me back up a little bit so you can see all that's actually coming out here. And now if you can't get over that mouth to lung, if drawing it straight into your lungs, excuse me, put 6 in there. I'm used to a 3, so this is just a tad harsh for, pardon me, just a tad harsh for me. I'm going to grab a drink of water real quick. like I was saying, if you can't get over that mouth to lung inhale, the straight to lung inhales are just not working for you, then you can cut that airflow down. Just know that you are going to run into a few more leaking issues with it, most likely. So you will have a little bit more leaking with it, maybe a little bit more flooding, but that's just going to be something you're going to have to deal with if you can't get the full lung inhales. It's just the way this device is designed. So I'm going to cut the airflow down to about half, and I'm going to do a few more mouth to lung inhales. Now you still do want to do a fairly heavy draw, or at least as heavy as you can do with just pulling it into your mouth. So, and you can see you don't get nearly as much vapor production out of it. Decent bit less vapor production. I'm even going to cut it down a little bit more than that. Even then though, with that cut down, with the added risk of getting a few more flooding issues with it, it is still going to perform a decent bit better than the EVODs and the Egos and devices like that. So if you're looking to step into a device, but some of the larger devices like maybe the Subvod, which is another great device that I recommend to a lot of newbies, if that's kind of scaring you, this is probably a perfect device for you. Alright guys, that was the Subvod from Kangertech. Make sure to hit that subscribe button for the latest and greatest videos, and if you liked it, hey, hit that like button. You guys have a great day. Bye.